Good evening, you're watching Mirror Now. I am Ritangshu Bhattacharya. Ladies and gentlemen, India is a democracy where all Indians are supposed to be equal. But it's also an Orwellian democracy where some Indians are more equal than others. Let's admit it, we have all tried to push our weight around when it comes to cutting corners, and we hate queuing up. Which is why how equal you truly are is determined in India by a combination of various factors: your surname, your social identity, and most importantly, your bank balance. We've seen it with this man. Let's be honest, in no other case of attempted burglary would you see over 20 police teams fan out across the country to try and nab the accused. And in no other case would you see media channels obsessing about it for more than weeks now. But all of that has been accepted in our country. He is a big star after all, until it came to the question of his medical insurance. The leak of Saif Ali Khan's health insurance claim has ignited a national conversation on how celebrities receive preferential treatment in healthcare, not just in how quickly their claims are approved, but how easily their claims are approved. So are we really a country where different yardsticks are a norm when it comes to celebrities, especially in terms of their insurance claims getting approved? And why should that matter to you in a nation where, as we just discussed, Sifarish and Tu Janta Hai Main Kaun Hu are key catchphrases? That's the big headline, which we will be attempting to go beyond that. But tonight, before that, let's have a look at the other headlines at 10 p.m. The poll tussle in the national capital turns toxic after Kejriwal. Delhi Chief Minister Atishi doubles down, accuses the Haryana BJP of committing genocide in the national capital by releasing 6 times the permissible levels of ammonia into water supply. Sources say the Haryana BJP will now sue Kejriwal over his claim that the BJP is mixing poison in the Yamuna water. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds a telephonic conversation with Donald Trump, their first conversation after Trump's mega inauguration, where he was sworn in as the 47th US president. Devbhoomi Uttarakhand becomes the first state in independent India to enforce the Uniform Civil Code, which lays a framework for uniform marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption laws for all citizens. While Chief Minister Pushkar Dhami has hailed the UCC as a bold reform for gender equality, opposition leaders and clerics term it divisive, vow to move the court. Showdown over the Waqf bill in the JPC meeting as the panel adopts all amendments proposed by the ruling BJP-led NDA and rejects every change proposed by the opposition members. While the JPC chairman says that the amendments passed will result in a better bill, the opposition MPs cry foul, accusing Jagdambika Paul of subverting the democratic process. Ahead of the Mahakumbh, airfares to Prayagraj skyrocket, with Delhi Prayagraj fares crossing 23,000 for the week of February 5th to 11th, and round-trip fares from other cities crossing 50,000 rupees per person. The centre steps in, urges airlines to regulate prices and ensure affordability for devotees. The Karnataka High Court grants relief to Chief Minister Siddaramaia's wife and Urban Development Minister Bhairati Suresh by halting the ED summons to them in the alleged Muda scam case. Earlier, the central agency had summoned the duo for questioning on Tuesday. The accolades pile in for India's fast-bowling spare Jasprit Bumrah, who has been crowned the ICC Men's Test Cricketer of the Year 2024. This comes after a sensational year where he took 71 wickets in just 13 matches. And Holocaust survivors are honored in a ceremony marking 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. Held at the former death camp, the service reflects both the unimaginable cruelty faced by so many and the resilience of the human spirit. So viewers, back to a big headline. Days after it was leaked that insurance provider Niva Bupa swiftly approved a medical claim for actor Saif Ali Khan following a knife attack at his Bandra residence, a Mumbai-based Association of Medical Consultants has raised concerns over preferential treatment for celebrities. Now, this Association of Medical Consultants claims to represent over 14,000 doctors and has written to the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority questioning how the swift cashless clearance of nearly 25 lakh for Saif Ali Khan's 4 to 5 day hospital stay was carried out. Now, this Association of Medical Consultants has called this practice discriminatory, arguing that insurance should benefit all policyholders equally without bias, without being based on the social status. So then let's look at how many corners were really cut in Saif Ali Khan's case. To begin with, the requirement in a medical legal case is that of an FIR copy, exempted. Next, the cashless treatment request of 25 lakh, that's approved immediately. What's more, the total bill of 36 lakh rupees racked up in just 4 to 5 days was also approved in principle without delay. Usually, there's an application of a reasonable and customary charges by the insurance provider that safeguards against inflated billing. That has been conveniently exempted in this case. So the red flags are glaring, and it is raising serious concerns about how these exemptions were made. Now contrast that with this statistic. Health insurers in India have rejected claims worth 15,100 crore during the last financial year. Almost 13% of all medical insurance claims filed were rejected. Now, this is according to a report by the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, which is government figures. There are local surveys which have carried out the figure to be as high as 50%. Why are these rejections happening? If you have gone through this, you will bear with me. First, the reason given is incorrect documentation or errors in paperwork, leading to outright rejection. Second, claims related to pre-existing conditions that aren't covered under the policy and are routinely denied. Third, policy lapses or delayed renewals can leave you unprotected when you need it the most. Fourth, failing to adhere to waiting period clauses, especially for specific treatments. And finally, inadequate treatment or incomplete medical records can make it impossible for you to get your rejection or to get your claim approved. There are many points to ponder then, and let's just roughly go through them before we go to my guest at this point. Are big corporate hospitals unfairly dominating over small nursing homes? Are insurance companies being dragged into the crossfire between patients and hospitals? Who leaked Saif Ali Khan's insurance claim to begin with? Isn't this a clear breach of privacy and data protection? Is health insurance fraud becoming a major issue and concern? Are hospitals misusing patients' medical insurance to inflate bills? And then is it time to bring in a stricter regulation for hospitals? And finally, are insurance companies showing favoritism at the expense of the common man? These are many questions that demand answers. It's a debate that's only growing louder. So without any further ado, let me go across to my guests who are joining me at this point. We are being joined by Shalini K, who is the distributor for Niva Bupa Health Insurance. Of course, remember that is the health insurance company that was involved in this case. We also have Mahavir Chopra, founder of Beshak.org, Professor Bon Mishra, who is a noted consumer rights activist, Dr. Sanjeev Bagay, who is the chairperson of Nephron. They're all joining me at this point here. Thank you all for joining me. We also hope to be joined soon by Dr. Sudhir Naik, head of AMC's medical legal cell. So I'll request my guest to be with me. Let me first go to Dr. Sudhir Naik, because he is the one who represents the AMC, which has indeed written this letter to the regulatory authority. Dr. Naik, thank you for joining us on Beyond the Headline tonight. What prompted you to write this, or what prompted the AMC to write this letter to the regulatory authorities? And why is it that you feel particularly concerned about the so-called lapses, the corners that have been cut when it comes to the case of Saif Ali Khan?
We as an association represent both healthcare providers, small, medium and large. We have our members who are working in small nursing homes as well as in the corporate hospitals. But a large number of our nursing home owners have been up in arms against the insurance companies, because they are feeling that they have been unfairly compared with the corporate hospitals, whereas the corporate hospitals get the claims passed very easily and smoothly. The nursing homes face this issue of empanelment as well as passing of their insurance claims. So we wrote this when we came to know that within a few hours of lodging the claim, this is what we heard from the press, that within 4 hours, an amount as high as 25 lakhs for a stab injury was passed. this raised the red flags, and we decided that we needed to write to IRDA that if this can be done for a celebrity, then the common man, who's the person who patronizes the small hospitals, is the one who needs this cashless services much more than the celebrities. So he also should have the same access. So we are trying to talk about the common man as well as the small hospital. So the two issues which we are talking about here is preferential treatment to a celebrity vis-a-vis a common man, and preferential treatment to a corporate vis-a-vis a smaller hospital. So the smaller
then Dr. Naik, let me try and pin you down, or let me try and get a clearer answer in this case. Dr. Naik, I'll let you complete your point, but answer this since you've reached that issue. In this case, do you feel all these corners that were being cut in the matter of 4 hours, a claim of as high as 25 lakhs was approved immediately, was it because the patient in this case was Mr. Saif Ali Khan, or is it because the hospital in this case was Lilavati Hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in the country?
Frankly, we are not privy to the details of this medical case. What was the type of treatment given? What were the investigations done? What was the surgery performed? So whether this case warranted the amount which was asked for and then finally sanctioned, we really are not privy to those details. But we are definitely concerned that this does not happen when a patient visits, a common man visits a small hospital. This speed with which they worked, it does not happen routinely, and that is our main grievance against the insurance companies.
No, Dr. Naik, I'm going to ask you again. Is this not a case of VIPs anyway, and every aspect? Even the fact remains, let's be honest here, that in most cases, a person cannot get VIP access to the top doctors in the hospital as big as Lilavati Hospital so quickly here. Is it because it is in general, in our country, we tend to have different rules in place for VIPs? Or do you feel, as you have alluded in your first answer, there is this largest systemic problem when it comes to insurance claims dealing with bigger hospital versus smaller nursing homes?
I think you can put 2 and 2 together and deduce your own answers. As far as we are concerned, we are here mainly talking about the systemic issues. We are not talking about this individual case at all. This was an opportunity to raise this issue, and we are glad that the media has taken up these issues, because we've been trying to raise these issues for long. This disparity, the problems which are faced by a common man, the problems which are faced by smaller hospitals, these are the problems which we have been raising with the insurance companies. All of them, when we meet them, say we understand your problems, but at the end of it, a lot was promised by the IRDA also, when the IRDA last year came out with its cashless everywhere facility, wherein a patient could walk into a hospital, even if it was not empaneled with a particular insurance company, they could ask for the cashless insurance, and the promise was that the turnaround time would be as low as 30 minutes. But that is observed more in the breach than in its observance. We have seen that it takes, in routine cases, it can take even a day or two for the cashless approvals. And when the cashless approval comes, it is usually for a very minuscule amount to begin with. Then again, at the time of the discharge, you need to present the final bills. And at the time of the discharge, the patient has to wait for the final bills to be cleared. And all this takes a time wherein the patient feels that the hospital is delaying the discharge. So these are the problems which we are facing as small healthcare providers. Okay. We want to provide cashless services to our members, to our patients also. But in the absence of any guaranteed turnaround time, many of us refuse and ask the patients to take a reimbursement. So it is not a facility which we would want to give when you are not sure of the turnaround time, you are not sure, you don't have the clerical staff to process these papers. So I think there is a systemic issue which you are trying to highlight, not this individual case pertaining to Lilavati and Saif Ali Khan.
Okay, Dr. Naik, I appreciate the point which AMC is being claiming out. This is, of course, an example of how there are different yardsticks at play, and which is why we are focusing on this point. This case brings to light the systemic problems and the different yardsticks, as I keep repeating, when it comes to big hospitals versus small hospitals, big people versus common men. But Dr. Naik, thank you for raising these points, setting up this debate for us. Feel free to stay on because we would really like to, I'm sure you would like to hear what some of our other panelists to say. And let me begin with Shalini K, who is, of course, distributor for Niva Bupa Health Insurance. Shalini ji, let's look at all these corners which many people on Twitter and on social media have pointed out as to what generally happens with them has not happened with Saif Ali Khan. Let's look at all these corners which Saif's case seems to have cut here. Now, this is a medico-legal case to begin with. In a medico-legal case, there is a criminal activity which has been alleged. In this case, there was alleged stabbing here. Generally an FIR copy is sought, that seems to have been exempted here. Then there is an immediate cashless request of 25 lakh which was approved, and then a bill of 36 lakh was approved as well, whereas normally a health insurance company will look at applying this clause of reasonable and customary charges here. Given the fact that all of that has been exempted, would you say this is a normal application of how health insurance claims or cashless claims are being approved in this country?
So let's first talk about how the medical insurance industry has evolved. I've been with the company from last 15 years. It is not only this insurance, it's even with life insurance. I've been working from last 24 years. So one most important role which a customer has to play at the time of buying a policy is understanding the benefit program. Most of the time people overlook these benefit programs. One is the gestation period, the time frame for which the policy becomes active. All medical policies, most of them at a certain age have a waiting period, which is almost 24 months. Most of them. Let's not talk about the products here, but gestation period is the waiting period. Terms and conditions are different for a healthy individual and a substandard life. So these things are the ones which normally cause a delay. Most of the time, the customer blames it on either the insurance company, the advisor, or the hospital authorities, whereas all four play their important role in getting a claim settled. First, I would say at the time of purchasing the policy, if the customer is informed, depending on the benefit program, and if the case is presented transparently, delay क्यों होता है? देखिए, delay इसलिए होता है because जो giving end पे है, जो insurance company है, वो अपना due diligence करती है कि कोई ऐसा तो नहीं है कि fraud है. If there is an existing bad history and the customer has bought a policy, डेफिनेटली ये क्लेम के टाइम पे ही पता चलेगा ना आपको कि वो हेल्दी है कि नहीं, अगर कोई एग्जिस्टिंग हेल्थ इशू है. इन हिज केस, इन सैफ्स केस, द प्रॉब्लम वाज इट वाज एन इमरजेंसी. देयर वाज अ काइंड ऑफ अ स्टैबिंग व्हिच नीडेड इमीडिएट अटेंशन. एंड सर, लेट मी इन्फॉर्म यू वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. इट इज नॉट ओनली विद अ सेलिब्रिटी. ऑल इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी, most of the companies clear the pre-authorization maximum within half an hour to 1 hour's time. It's not only Niva Bupa. All companies are equally pro in doing so. Also depends the kind of policy the transparency in which the papers or the documents have been presented. The only thing which is required at the time of raising a pre-auth request is the policy number, the KYC details of the customer, that he is holding this value policy. और अगर वो genuine कुछ situation है, most of the situations are genuine. कोई ऐसे ही उठ के हॉस्पिटल नहीं जाता, तो वो क्लियरेंस हमें आ जाता है. That clearance, they just do a quick vigilance check and they clear it, and they always never commit the entire amount. Nobody would know what kind of a cost will the patient end up in. Hello. So what I'm trying to say here is that it is not only that the customer or I cannot hear you. Hello?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
No, I was waiting for you to complete, Shalini ji. There is a slight difference in what you hear me, and yes, I get your point, Shalini ji, and I get your point. You are saying that effectively there was no undue haste or there was no undue preference which was given in this case, and you have very in detail given your stand of the case. I just want to get a very quick response on what my other panelists feel. Dr. Naik, since you stayed back, does Shalini ji's response assure you answer your queries before I also get in Bon Mishra to respond on that?
I wish this was true for all my patients. I really hope and pray that this kind of service will be available to the common man in every hospital that he or she visits. As far as the due diligence is concerned, I think the hospitals and submission of all the papers are concerned. I think most hospitals by now are aware of the system, and these processes are in place wherein we can submit all the documents. But in spite of it, I mean, this turnaround time which she's talking about, I think it is not observed, at least for the small nursing homes. I really don't know what is the situation in the corporate hospitals. Probably they have a separate department which caters to this, and that is why they are able to, there must be some system which they have different from what the smaller hospitals can provide. As far as we are concerned, when we have been talking to the insurance companies, we have always maintained that we as insurance providers and as an association, our association is there to help you to find out if there is any fraud happening, and if there is any particular case wherein you find that there is such a this thing, we will take strict action against such a member. So please highlight whenever you talk of frauds in hospitals, we are equally concerned, because overall claim ratios are going to be affected by such frauds. So we are there to help you, and you can reach out to our association, and we are there to take action against any such member who indulges in any.
Okay, Shalini ji, I'll give you your chance to respond. I just also want to get in my other guests who've been waiting for a while as well. Professor Bon Mishra, Shalini ji, I will come back to you. Please let me go to my other guests. I will get back to you, and that is my assurance to you. Professor Bon Mishra, you are someone who's India's foremost consumer policy expert here. Come in at this point. If we look at the figures which the IRDA has revealed, there are 13% of cases which come to a sum of 15,100 crores, which have had their claims rejected in the last financial year as well. There is a survey which has been done by local circles which claims that this figure, instead of 13%, can be as high as 50%, which have been partially or completely rejected in the last 3 hours. Keeping this data in mind, do you see the case timeline that we have seen in this particular man's case match up to what you have known through figures and what you have known through anecdotes as well?
Ritangshu, first let me explain to you that there is nothing called common man. Every policy holder is equal. They pay a sum of money to cover their risk, and they pay that money based on certain factors and criteria. It's a science. It's a science of actuarian. It is underwritten, and based on data, the insurance company does business. Let us understand that insurance is not a charity. It is business. So as a policy holder and as a consumer person, I pay the money in advance. I pay the full money in advance. As a consumer, whatever they ask us to pay, we pay that in advance, with a full assurance that our risk will be covered in a manner which we have agreed to get covered. Now, when we go to an hospital, and when we talk about health insurance, the first thing is I find the hospitals don't work in a manner which we desire from them. Not the insurance companies. The hospitals do not promptly service the policyholders in a manner where we can get cashless facility. The hospitals always push the policyholders to claim reimbursement. They want the patients to pay again, even though we have paid in advance, which is completely out of context in terms of insurance. Insurance doesn't say that I claim, reimbursement. Insurance says I should get cashless. And this is what we have been able to do in the last 2 years with the regulators' help, to bring in cashless facility in the country, in India, as per the norms of insurance. So, Ritangshu, the point which we have to understand is nothing called VIP, non-VIP. All policyholders are equal. And what you have comprehensively explained in your opening remarks, and I must congratulate Miran now for bringing up this issue in a very comprehensive manner. You see, what I want to say is, yes, there is a need for more transparency in terms of the functioning of the insurance companies. There is more need to become accountable to the policyholders. Bon Mishra,
thank you for your compliments.
And the hospitals equally have to work on that.
It is the hard work of my team which has researched the entire day. And my team, especially my team Adarsh and Mohit, have come out with this data which you've put out. But the point which you made at this point, Bon Mishra, about hospitals not cooperating, hospitals not playing ball, that's an excellent segue for me to get in. Dr. Sanjeev Bagay, who's chairperson of NEPRON. Dr. Bagay, thank you for being with us this late into the night. Your understanding of what has been said so far on the show. One is what Mr. Bon Mishra is saying, that sometimes it's the hospitals that don't play along, that insist and try and force you to let go of cashless and go in for reimbursement, which means a patient has to pay money twice, once for the insurance premium and second for the medical bills to begin with. And also the point which Dr. Naik was mentioning, that it's not just a discrimination between a VIP and a so-called common citizen, but also a systemic discrimination between the bigger hospitals and the smaller nursing homes.
Good evening. So my take is as follows. First focusing on this particular case, if you go through the sequence of events, there are lacunae, there are gaps. Initially, it was said there were 6 injuries and stabs. The MLC report, which was submitted to the police, they said 5, out of which 4 were lacerations and 1 was an abrasion. An abrasion really doesn't require suturing or any intensive care. Now, if you go through the website of this particular hospital, I don't have the formal discharge summary or I don't have the case file with me. But if you look through the rate list of the hospital and the surgical charges, a figure of 36 lakhs is impossible for the type of injuries which have been described. I repeat again, however expensive the hospital in India may be, 36 lakhs does not justify the type of injuries described so far. Point number 2 is a claim of 25 lakhs being given as pre-authorization as cashless doesn't meet the eye straight away. Obviously, this full process has been fast-tracked for the particular person. With regards smaller nursing homes and larger hospitals, yes, of course, the corporate hospitals have more amount of staff, they have a separate TPA desk, they have a pre-estimation desk, and an near exact accurate figure is given to the patient family. Smaller nursing homes suffer as far as that is concerned, and very often their claims are delayed or restrictions are put or queries are put and the full claim doesn't come. But the more important point which I want to make over here is there has to be a level playing field, not only with regards hospital A, B or C, however large they may be, but there also has to be a level playing field as far as the insurance companies are concerned. The fine print of insurance companies is so exhaustive and goes into tens of pages in microscopic language, it's almost impossible even for a superlative Einstein to understand it before they take the policy. After being in the industry close to now 40 years, we know where the gaps are. And I think my advice to everyone is those gaps need to be cleared. All patients need to be treated equally. There has to be a pricing policy. A liver and kidney transplant in any large corporate hospital, a combined twin transplant will not cross 36 lakhs. The injuries suffered by this particular actor were not in that league of severity and criticality. So when you are talking in terms of perhaps the most intensive and technology-driven and surgically skilled procedures, like transplant surgeries don't cost so much, 36 lakhs is obviously ballooned.
Two very important points here. One, obviously, as you've pointed out, Dr. Bagay, that there is a lot which doesn't add up in Saif Ali Khan's case. By extension, it doesn't add up in the entire investigation itself, but especially in this case of his treatment here. But you also mentioned the fact as to how insurance companies or insurance documents are increasingly verbose to a point where they're overwhelmingly difficult and they're seen as a system as an unsurmountable barrier by itself. Another excellent opportunity for me to bring in our last guest at this point. Mahavir Chopra is founder of Beshak.org. Mr. Chopra, today you came up with a very important LinkedIn position here, and your LinkedIn profile says literally that aim is to make insurance trustworthy again. The point is that you said that the narrative has changed from insurance is something which is there to help people to has become something of insurance versus people. Why do you think, Mr. Chopra, it has come down to that? The point is that I have no absolute idea if I have to ever go in for insurance, that am I being helped or am I being fooled, or is the purpose of which I'm buying a very costly health insurance and paying 18% GST, whatever the figure is, ultimately that will come of help for me many years later when I'm in a hospital and my relatives are running pillar to post to try and get a cashless claim.
Right. So it's a very complex and a layered problem, first of all. The root of the problem basically can be explained in two parts. One is that there is no regulation on healthcare billing today, and that basically puts insurance companies in a spot in terms of basically being able to price products. And because they're not able to price products right, they are then forced to basically control claims, right? That is one thing that I have seen over the 20 years of experience that I have, and the time that I've spent with Beshak, where we represent customers on our platform. The other problem is that there is a major issue with trust within the industry, which is basically between the customer and the insurer, and the insurer and the customer. And insurers have still not created enough systems to be able to trust customers well, right? So when a customer comes to them with a claim, the first eye is of suspicion, right? Which basically did not come up in the case of Saif Ali Khan, because specifically they come from a specific profile where they can be basically given some leeways in terms of they not coming up with a fraudulent claim, specifically also because it's an accident or a kind of a criminal kind of a case, right? But very clearly, meaning after hearing everybody on this video show that we are on, if this was anybody else, who had gone through this specific issue, and it was not Saif Ali Khan or any other celebrity, this claim would have not been passed in the 4-5 hours that we saw this claim got passed, right? Major issues come into picture, which is specifically around two things, right? One is that whenever there is a case where there is a criminal activity, an insurer goes through multiple rounds of question and answers before they pay the claim. They will not approve the claim. Mostly, this case would have gone into reimbursement, right? This would have not got into being paid in cashless for sure in 99% cases. The other issue is the amount, which I think a lot of people have talked about. This level of cost would have not got approved in the 4-5 hours that I am hearing this claim has got approved. So definitely insurers should create systems where they are able to profile customers and not look at only the top layered, creamy layer of customers, but look at customers who have spent 15 years paying premiums, senior citizens, all those people who have basically invested in insurance for a long time, and profile them and also give them this specific treatment that they've given to a star like Saif Ali Khan. It shouldn't have applied only to people who have bought policies very recently. People who have bought policies after they've got diseases could basically be put into this suspicious eye of, not being paid claims on time. But putting everybody, all customers in the block of saying that, all claims are fraudulent and hence I will do multiple checks before I pay a claim should stop very, very quickly, right? Meaning this is a good precursor of
Mahavir, you have a fascinating take, Mahavir. So you are saying, effectively, if I can sum up your argument, you are saying that it's not a case of you're saying that it's not a case of checks and balances being removed in Saif Ali Khan's case, which has made it so quick. You're saying that in normal cases, there are additional scrutinities born out of an element of suspicion and an element of doubt, which make it abnormally longer, if not impossible or improbable for a normal citizen, which Saif Ali Khan benefited from. So Shalini Kohli, I come back to you. You've heard some very important, very dignified people from different personal fields here who have come out and said the same view, that what happened in Saif Ali Khan's case is the exception and not the norm. That doesn't mean necessarily that there was something which was wrong which happened in Saif Ali Khan's case. It's just that this is a practice that should be made a lot more simpler and similar and easier, as we've seen in Saif Ali Khan's case, should happen to everyone else, but does not happen.
First of all, I would like to clarify here that ऐसा नहीं है that all the claims get cleared. There are always claims which don't get cleared. We always probe into the reason why the claim did not get clear. Either there was some information missing at that time. Normal turnaround time for the claim to get settled is about 1.5 hours. I'm talking about the pre-auth here. The final claim settlement is done at the time of discharge. If you see here, he was admitted, a pre-auth was sent. This is a process which all insurance companies follow. This information is given to us by the hospital authorities, the doctor on board who's taking care of the case. If the documentation is correct, the policy is active in the system, automatically a pre-auth request is sent back with an approval. The full and final discharge, and mind you, the first pre-auth is never up to the value asked for. So assuming if the estimate of the treatment is, let's assume 25 lakhs, the first approval comes to be of maybe 22 or 23 lakhs. The full and final discharge, claim settlement happens at the time of discharge. This is the process which we have been following since inception, from the time I have been delivering claims. The claims which are not cleared are due to many reasons. ऐसा भी होता है सर कि claim रुका, उसको पीछे कर दिया गया because again it was in the queue. It takes about 2 to 3 hours again to come in the queue in the front. And with the reasoning that why this, the service provider, which is the catalyst, is your advisor. The person who sold you the policy, that person also plays a very, very important role at this point of time, because he's joining the information given from the TPA or the third party or the cashless hospital to the insurance company. So ये information smooth चलनी चाहिए, ये बहुत important है. Clear होनी चाहिए, transparency at the time of buying. आपने कहा, one of my colleagues said that there's a lot of high premiums the company charges and there is no transparency. Just to share with you, the customer is very, very informed these days. Even if it is not informed, he's not informed. The advisor or the catalyst who has sold him the plan makes sure that he's well informed. I'm not talking about everyone. Yes, there is a certain class who might not be up to that level educated, but understanding, taking an informed decision at the time of purchase and clearing, giving the right information to the insurance companies.
So you are saying, Shalini ji, that ultimately the onus stays with the consumer, because the process works. The process more or less is foolproof. The process works as a well-oiled machine, and then it comes down to whether, as you said, the consumer has done due diligence in terms of applying. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me go across then. Let me then understand how.
Health insurance है.
Okay.
देखिए, एक मिनट मुझे complete करने दीजिए.
Dr. Bagay, do you?
I am taking the 4 entities here. The consumer hospital.
Yeah, Ritesh. Can I answer that question?
Dr. Bagay, I'm sorry, Dr. Bagay, let me just bring in a bit of this. There's a bit of audio delay, which is why a lot of our panelists may be getting flummoxed here. But Dr. Bagay, you mentioned at this point that there were so many irregularities, and all of viewers have also been seeing, not just in the overall investigation in general, but also in this case. What was the nature of injuries? What was the exact turnaround time? On day one, when we had discussed this, when this happened, you had said that it's probably going to be weeks for Mr. Khan to make a full recovery. If at all, he makes a complete 100% recovery. And in 4 days, we saw him, thankfully, walk out looking reasonably healthy and at this point. So things don't add up. Now, this is not an open and shut case as being pointed out. This is a case in a normal situation would have definitely incurred the default suspicious eye of the regulator and said that, okay, let's look at it in a bit more detail. Abhi you pay the money and we'll look at reimbursing you.
Yeah. Yeah, so, as quick summary points, on a lighter note, after 8 degrees and fellowships and 40 years of being in healthcare and being, I would say, an average plus intellect person of reasonable IQ, I still don't understand the health insurance policies. They come in 40 or 50 pages. It takes you hours to read. And there are clauses, sub-clauses, verticals and sub-verticals. It's circles within circles. So keeping that apart, this case needs scrutiny as far as the billing policy of the hospital is concerned. It needs to be collaborated with the nature of injuries which was described. It needs to be collaborated with what kind of insurance cover the particular gentleman had. It needs to be collaborated as to what category of room he was entitled to. Because your category of room then decides your OT charges. your anesthesia charges, your anesthesia gas charges, your surgical fee charges. So there are a lot of things which are unknown at the present moment, but there are a lot of things which very clearly don't meet the eye. In the end, I would like to mention two things. Hospitals need a more fair pricing policy. Point number two, we need insurance healthcare reforms in which people understand the policy easier. There is ease and friendliness of an end user at the time of discharge from the hospital vis-a-vis the patient, and the health insurance policies must pay dividends to the patient. If a person has used or paid premium for 20 years and then has an illness and goes there and gets shortchanged, that will be pretty unfair.
Okay, so you mentioned 2 points. You mentioned 2 points, what the hospitals need to do, what the insurance premium, the medical insurance companies need to do. Very quickly, Professor Bon Mishra, come in on the first point here. Is it not a case that we don't know today, if I have to go through, God forbid, a heart surgery, I have no idea how much that figure can be. It can be 10 lakhs, it can be 20 lakhs, it can be 30 lakhs. And that is why there is a massive room for companies or hospitals to manipulate in terms of coming up with inflated bills, which are then not agreed to by the insurance companies.
No, Ritangshu, we must understand, again I'm telling you, we have to argue on clear data. In the last 4 years, the kind of reforms which has taken place after COVID is enormous in our country, enormous. You know, Dr. Bagay is not aware. We get a one-page summary now. As a policy holder, we are informed in one page what the policy you should expect and not expect. We have brought in a lot of reforms in the last 3 years. As consumer groups, we have worked with the insurance companies very closely and also the regulator. But of course, the same breath I say that it is not happening in the manner we desire. It can be better. But the real challenge is with the hospitals. The pricing, the opaqueness in terms of pricing within the hospitals. They give two different pricing.
That's what Dr. Bagay
one
has been
for
saying.
Insurance policyholder and one for people who come without insurance. So
that's what Dr. Bagay has been saying, that there has to be a bit of sameness or at least some standardization in what a procedure is supposed to be cost, and not be based on various factors based on which hospital you are in, whether it's a tier 1 city or a tier 2 city, whether it's an insurance case or not a case, what room you have. There's a lot of room of interpretation and room for margins and error at this point.
So what is the total cover?
Mahavir Chopra, I come to you for the last word for the second.
Ritangshu,
can I come in here?
Bon Mishra, I'm really running short of time. I get your point. I want to just get Mahavir Chopra on the last point. What Dr. Bagay has mentioned here. Shalini says that
you must know that the insurance has a
one second, Dr. Naik, just
cover. If somebody is having 3 crores, that person will be covered for 3 crores.
Okay. Got your point.
Somebody with 5 lakhs.
Got your point at this point. Got your point. Mahavir Chopra, the final point is, who does the onus lie with here? Shalini ji says that ultimately, if I'm the one getting myself insured, it is up to me to go through 40 and 50 pages of fine print and try and understand what exactly are my rights, what am I being covered in, what exactly are the facilities and my responsibilities given. Dr. Bagay has pointed out that even for someone who is in the fraternity, someone who understands the procedure, all of that still goes over his head. I tend to agree with him. How do we reach a middle ground?
Absolutely. So the only way to solve for this is to understand what are the broad contours of a policy, what are the major areas of the policy where you could have deductions. That is something that you could basically try to understand. There are various methods to do that. We as a company basically have only taken up this as a mission to do this, but obviously I'm not here to talk about that. The other way to solve this is basically to find a really professional expert who can basically help you navigate the insurance policy, right? Because even after I have been in this space for 20 years, and I agree with Dr. Bagay that, even after 20 years, I cannot confidently say that I know all the clauses of health insurance, because the health insurance keeps dynamically changing every year, every month, every week also now, after multiple opening up of regulations that have happened. So after that, you need someone, like you need a lawyer for basically fighting a legal case, and you need a doctor or a CA for basically professional things that you want to do. Now you need a health insurance expert who basically has the knowledge of basically understanding these products, and also has the understanding of how claims operate.
I get your point, but do you imagine now?
Otherwise,
you already, I mean, you're saying that we need to institutionalize having someone who's acting as a middleman. Are you saying that we need to institutionalize, medicalize this point? Shalini ji, go ahead.
No.
Yes, Dr. Naik, I'll come to you. Shalini wants to make a point. Unfortunately, I have to get up a couple of times. I'll come to you, Dr. Naik.
I have a solution to this. Excuse me, if you let me speak.
Okay.
Okay, here I have a solution to this. I personally have been doing, and I encourage a lot of my fellow colleagues to do the same. There is a process called annual review of your medical policy. And today the IRDA gives you this permission. If you are not happy with one service provider, you can port your policy. So first most important thing is that you should allow the customer to revisit the plan next year at the time of renewal. So what we've been doing, whenever the insurance is due, a week before or 15 days prior to that, we make the customer go through the benefit program of the policy, that please understand what you have. And since the industry is evolving, medical industry is evolving, a lot of new methods and techniques have come in. So you should be aware of this, what your policy shortcomings are. If you wish to upgrade, this is the time to do it. And also, if something else beneficial, better is available, you can always opt for that.
Okay, so what you're saying, what you're saying sounds perfectly fair. An annual review, which is very fair enough. That's a good idea. That does sound fair. Dr. Naik, I'll come to you for the last word. I really need to wrap it up. I'm enjoying the discussion, but we need to move on. Dr. Naik, go on.
Yeah, I think my friend Bijon made a point about non-transparency of the hospital charges. I think we have been interacting with the insurance industry for the last more than 20 years. And we have been saying that the reimbursement data of all the hospitals is available. And there is a data sharing now which is happening amongst all the companies. In fact, the IRDA mandates that this insurance data should be shared amongst the companies so that it can help in weeding out those frauds. So if there is any particular hospital where the reimbursement charges are much lower than what is being claimed as per the cashless, I think that particular insurance company can come to the association and we will help them out to weed out these black sheep. So we are here to help them out. There has to be a joint effort between the consumer, the insurance company and the healthcare provider. We are, what our concern as small healthcare providers is, we are following the path of the United States. What happened in United States 30 years back is that the insurance industry started dominating the healthcare industry to such an extent that the single doctor-owned hospitals were squeezed out of existence. We don't want that situation to happen here in India.
Okay, Dr. Naik, we get your concern. We get your concern, and I think we can all agree on this fact that this is a joint responsibility of the consumer, of the insurance provider, and the hospital as well. Let's leave it at that. This has been quite an in-depth discussion, and I'm glad we have had so many stakeholders on board as well to try and give a complete picture. At the end of the day, if there's one thing, hopefully, positive which comes out of this entire Saif Ali Khan saga is hopefully our viewers are a lot more aware about their rights and their duties when it comes to insurance providers. And we have started what I think all of our panelists will agree is a very important conversation. Thank you again, once again, Dr. Sudhir Naik, Shalini Kohli, Mahavir Chopra, Professor Bon Mishra, and Dr. Sanjeev Bagay. Thank you so much for joining us. It's time for a short commercial break. On the other side, there is news and updates we need to reflect. Stay tuned to Beyond the Headline.